Welcome to the Nursing Post podcast, all nursing all the time with Ashley Moore and Rosa Horsley. This episode brings out the inner nerds in us. I should say the super inner nerds in us. As we are going to dive into the Neuralink device. And our goal is always to inform and definitely start conversation.
Yes.
It is fascinating to think that an implantable device that could help improve or even dare say cure any neurological disorders. Elon Musk's vision for the Neuralink is quite impressive and may almost seem out of reach. This integration with technology and medicine brings medical care to an entirely different level.
I'm so excited about doing this episode. And if you listen back to our epilepsy episode, we
alluded to this.
Exactly. So the Neuralink is an implanted device. It's about the size of a coin. It has hundreds of threads that are attached to it. And the threads are microscopic. They are a fraction of the size of a strand of hair. Just to give some comparison as to what the device looks like. One of the threads on this is 5 microns thick. Don't ask me what a micron is, but it is 5 microns thick. A human hair is 100 microns thick. So that gives you to think of the size of these hundreds of threads that are attached to this coin-like device and what it looks like. Those threads are embedded about 4 millimeters into the brain tissue using a robotic arm. The end result is to have the procedure done completely robotic, and it would take about an hour to embed all these threads into your brain. And once the threads are embedded, the coin-sized chip actually sits flush with your skull, and they just close you back up. It's done in your hairline, depending upon where it needs to be embedded at, where the threads need to go, where the coin needs to be. You wouldn't even know that you had one of these Neuralink devices because the scar would be underneath your hairline, unless you were bald.
Well, yeah, you don't have any hair, yeah.
But otherwise, you wouldn't even know it's there. So that's what it is. The purpose of the device is to help cure neurological disorders, okay? It is the device, the Neuralink, is controlled by an app on your phone, which is ridiculous to me.
It is. I mean, but that's the way everything's going. I'm not trying to be funny. That's like the future that we're in right now.
It is, but you have a device embedded in your head and it's controlled by an app on your phone.
Well, let's talk about it for crazy. Let's talk about it for a second, because nowadays phones cost more than computers.
Yeah.
And if something happens, would I rather just take the app on my phone out or run all the way home to the computer if I had the chance?
Very true. Very true. But the app can send electrical impulses through the threads that are embedded into your brain. And that one thread, it can stimulate up to 10,000 neurons.
That's amazing.
Okay. So that's crazy. The device can read 1,024 channels. It gathers data such as inertial measures, pressures on the brain, and temperature. There are other devices like the Neuralink that are medically approved, but they only read about 100 channels.
That's like 10. It can read 10 times more.
10 times more. It can. The Neuralink can also write to neurons. So it's not only just gathering data, it can send as well. That is using an imaging technique called 2-photon microscopy. The Neuralink team is able to observe bundles of neurons in real time as the device sends electrical signals. And each electrode can influence between 1,000 and 10,000 neurons, depending upon where it's placed. And if you multiplied by 1,000 electrodes, each device can influence 10 million neurons. And with multiple devices, say you just don't have one Neuralink, you have 2 or 3, you could influence tens of millions of neurons.
I mean, this research, it is really amazing.
You think, why would you want to affect neurons at all?
Well, that would be Elon Musk's vision, right?
Right.
He wants to help with neurological illnesses, okay?
Right.
So let's think about that. depression, anxiety, stroke, paralysis, addiction, memory loss, hearing loss, insomnia, blindness, extreme pain, strokes, seizure, and brain damage. Just imagine if this works and is implanted, let's say, in somebody like we discussed in our epilepsy, who's having seizures,
Right.
or maybe someone who has Alzheimer's or dementia,
Right.
or someone who's had a massive stroke and, sometimes in a vegetative state.
Right.
Like,
so those neurons are
breakthrough.
not working, or they're working abnormally. So what these threads would do is they actually would send impulses to say, hey, you need to work, and would cause that neuron to work or work appropriately.
Yeah, this is big. It's big. And Elon Musk's thought process is you need an electrical thing to solve an electrical problem. And that's what, neurons in our brain pretty much, they're synapses,
Right.
You have your synapses and they're sending messages back and forth throughout our body to make us and help us breathe involuntarily, or for us to voluntarily like move our arms, right, for me to even speak.
Right.
It has to be a conversation between, the neurons and the synapses in my brain to make all this happen.
Exactly.
And so that's what he's saying. He's like, you can't go in and take a battery to a car and pour water over it. No, you need to go on in there and jump it with electricity to get the electricity going.
Right. And so it makes sense when you say that. Of course, I don't know when you're talking about this stuff. I mean, I spent hours reading and watching, just all the work that has been put into this, which was not a problem for me at all.
Not at all. If you guys don't know this is her man. He don't know it yet.
No, actually he doesn't. But that's okay.
He may now.
That's all right too.
So, for example, patients who have lost the ability to move an arm after a stroke, these threads can stimulate the area of the brain that is no longer working properly and restore its function. The first human clinical trials will be working on paralysis patients.
Yes.
His vision of Neuralink is to sync the human brain with AI, which I think all of us are familiar with that terminology, which means artificial intelligence, enabling humans to control computers, prosthetic limbs, and other machines using only our thoughts. It would essentially translate human thoughts into computer commands and vice versa.
It's just that's a whole other level of strategy and thinking to solve problems, which, is part of my attraction. I don't like stupid people.
Absolutely not.
The smarter you are, the more handsome
attractive,
you are.
Yeah. Back in the day,
saying.
nerds were a bad thing. No, we've surpassed that. Geeks are hot. And he's a geek because, he's here with science and everything.
Just talk. I'm good. I don't even need to see you. Just talk.
That's like me and my little news anchor. All he has to do is read to me and I'll be fine.
It's the little things in life. As you get older, it's like, oh, I need somebody good to look at. And I'm like, no, I need somebody good to talk to. So this is actually not a new thought. It's not groundbreaking. Researchers all over the world have been experimenting with surgically implanted brain-computer interface systems for over 15 years. And I didn't know that until I researched this out. And the Brain Gate organization, which is just a cute name.
I can't believe that even exists.
Yeah. And so the Brain Gate organization and other groups have used brain-computer interfaces to enable people with neurological diseases and paralysis to operate tablets and to type at 8 words a minute and to control prosthetic limbs only using their thoughts. So what is different about the Neuralink that Elon Musk is creating versus what's already out there? The big thing is the Neuralink is wireless. It can be surgically implanted and nobody would even know it, because these other ones, they protrude from the skull. They are actually wires that they have to hook physically up to something.
To a device.
Which is just kind of crazy. I'm going to go charge my Neuralink. I don't know. It's just amazing. Of course, because I'm a fan of Elon Musk and his work. And I'm just like, oh, of course it's going to be great. Rosa's like,
he walks on water, guys. I don't think you understand. To Ashley, Elon walks on water.
Just saying.
We're on a first name basis now. We don't even call him Elon Musk. He's just Elon. He's amazing. Oh, and then I had to come and pour some, salt on Ashley's parade.
Well, she didn't pull salt on mine. I'm just saying.
Well,
he'll fix all these problems she came up with. It won't even be an issue.
I think he's probably working on them right now because he's just so smart. He's
already one step ahead.
So, with all things that make medicine, even with its advancements and improvements, there will always be that one way or one person that will take those advances and use them for their non-intended purposes.
Without a doubt.
And so, as lovely of an idea Neuralink is,
I just had a great idea. We could hold them down, surgically implant a Neuralink, and just like stimulate the good parts of their brain, and then they won't be bad people anymore.
I think you need to write or email Elon.
See,
it's bad.
Solving the world's problems one day at a time.
It's bad. So there are critics. This is amazing research. I'm not going to lie. This is really astonishing, and it's going to help a lot of people.
Absolutely.
If it works. But there are those on the flip side. He has critics. Everybody does.
Yes, absolutely. It's okay. They don't understand.
They don't. So as I was researching this, I was like, well, there's got to be some cons to this. Like, yeah, it's a wonderful thought, but there's got to be some cons to it. And then the more I started looking, the more I kind of went down that rabbit hole that I tend to go down. And with that, I found some haters of Elon Musk who have concerns about it. And one of those concerns, and this one is legit, is hackers.
Right.
People are hacking our computers. They're hacking our databases. They're hacking our phones. So it's a legitimate concern. So if you have this chip that's implanted into your brain and it's controlled by an app on your phone, who's to say that that phone will not be hacked or your brain can't be hacked?
Right.
So that's one of the concerns that I found a lot when I was reading about Neuralink. It didn't pop up just one time or two times. It actually popped up a lot. And you have to think recently to this past year, just here on the news recently, there was a hacker that was employed by Amazon who was no longer employed. And
couldn't imagine why.
Well, yeah. And they decided to, hack a major bank. Capital One was hacked. And, we have some very competitive phone makers and very successful operating systems. And even they are now realizing that there's malware in some of their operating systems.
Yep.
And these are supposed to be high-tech phones that no one can get into.
Right. So
there are vulnerabilities here.
Yeah. If they got somebody like Elon on payroll, it wouldn't be an issue, but.
So, we have to keep that in mind. And remember, like, things are backed up now. Things are backed up to a cloud. Yeah.
I mean, you have people being hacked now that we wouldn't have thought a couple of years ago that it would ever be an issue. But this is people, financials, all different kinds of insurance companies. I mean, there was an insurance company that had a huge breach.
Yes.
And I was actually part of that.
It's scary. It's just, all I'm saying is it's a great idea, but we have to make sure before it's like rolled out that these things the bugs are fixed. So
absolutely.
And, a lot of things now are like cloud based. Like, has anybody seen the cloud? Has anybody seen the cloud? We just all know that it goes there, but nobody ever sees it.
Where's the cloud at?
Exactly. So
Silicon Valley.
That's where my cloud is. And things are Bluetooth,
Yeah.
And this is supposed to be a Bluetooth capable device. Like, that's the whole thought process, wireless Bluetooth. So that's just some food for thought.
Right.
And then you have to think, well, if you have hackers who intend to do terrible things, there are people in this world that intend to do horrible things. So, Neuralink wants to improve lives by finding a cure for everything from paralysis to depression. But what human conditions are we going to consider curable?
Or what needs to be cured?
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So at what point is that? Because, my
Some
son...
ethics in there.
Yeah,
for
we
sure.
need ethics for sure. For instance, my son is on the spectrum,
Mm-hmm.
and there are some people that feel that autism spectrum disorder, they need a cure for it.
Right.
And in some instances, probably so, because there's a
different-
spectrum. That's
yeah.
why they call it a spectrum. And there's high level functioning and low level functioning and everything in between. But some people would say, oh, that's a neurological disorder.
Right.
That person has ASD or that child has ASD. So why don't we stick one of these in them and see if it fixes their problem?
Right. Not everybody would look at it as a problem that needs to be fixed.
Exactly. Or you can go like totally left on it. Like, remember back in the day when LGBTQ plus was not, accepted, and way back in the 70s and 80s, like people were going to churches to be brainwashed and reprogrammed so that they would be heterosexual instead of, I know, it's so absurd. So who's to say that something like that happened in the past couldn't happen again? People having these chips and things implanted and saying, okay, let's erase all homosexuality or all heterosexuality for that matter.
Right. Well, I don't think that's an illness. I don't know. I guess I look at that a lot differently.
I don't think of it as an illness either.
It's just, but I know that there's somebody out there that'll say, well, they're just, who cares who they love? Why are we going to get rid of love?
I just think, like you said, the ethics part of it
will be a huge thing.
It is going to be a huge thing about it. And here I go down my rabbit hole.
Oh, yeah.
This is going to be, this is the favorite for everybody. What if the United States government gets a hold of it?
Any government.
And yes, I mean, even foreign government.
Yeah.
Okay. So we already have some conspiracy theories with people living in the United States about the United States. They're always listening. They're watching me. They're following me. They know what I eat for dinner and what flushes down my toilet and, all these,
Tapped into the camera on my phone.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I can't say anything. I have tape over my computer. My computer lens here.
A little bit of that conspiracy theory lives
inside me.
Deep within Rosa's soul, which is why I laugh, because I'm just like, if they ain't got nothing better to do than watch me, I feel so sorry for the person who's tagged to me. They're gonna be like, can I get somebody else, please?
No, like all the computers in my house literally have that black electrical tape over the camera part. So
yeah. See, I think my husband does that, and I'm just like, I don't care. And he's like, they could be watching you. I'm like, I'm sorry for them.
You're gonna care when you end up on the internet.
They'll be like, look at this girl.
She's gonna care when she ends up on the internet. So we know the U.S. government has not had a great track record. There's been research and it's been proven, that the United States did experiments on its own soldiers with LSD and other medications and other vaccines during Vietnam and thereafter. Mm-hmm. So then you have the far right.
Right.
Thinking that the government could use this technology against its own people. Mm-hmm. But then you have not only the United States now, foreign powers.
Right.
Who's to say that our friends in the Soviet Union would not hack our devices for the betterment of them, to manipulate everything that we do, our stocks, our bonds, whatever. So I think it's a reasonable question.
Well, you have this, I think, when it comes to any kind of device that may give intel or any inside knowledge for any kind of top secret stuff. I mean, when you think about like the things that people want to know or what other governments want to know, what they're trying to achieve because there's things that happen in this world that we all know happens. We just try not to think about them.
Absolutely.
Like torturing people to get information, things like that.
I mean, we have spies.
Yes.
How many times have you turned on the television this year and saw a story about a spy?
It's just one of those things. It happens. And we all know it happens. It's not just something you see in the movies. Mm-hmm. I mean, they might not all look like James Bond, but
rest in peace, Sean Connery.
There's things that we know occur in the world with the United States and other developed countries.
Absolutely.
That we choose to really not think about in a daily occurrence. Like, I know that stuff's going down that I don't want to know about that would break my heart. And they're like, oh, well, they were going to do this. And, you know, it hurts my heart to think about anybody being in pain or suffering for any reason. I think the only way that would go away is like if somebody was like directly affecting my child, then I think that all my compassion would then drain away from my body.
Absolutely.
You know, like if you're hurting somebody that I'm physically, like
You're
emotionally
connected.
attached to, well, I mean, that's going to drain. But even if I know that somebody did something that was wrong, but I didn't have that connection, I would know it was wrong and they get what they deserve, but I wouldn't want to be directly a part of it just because it would hurt my heart to see another human suffer, even if they were a bad person. I do struggle with that. I understand the need, you know, it's kind of bad to say, like, I understand that they throw them in jail, you know, they get what they deserve kind of thing, but I couldn't be the person to do that.
Yeah.
And so when you're talking about being able to manipulate a lot of, because if you're trying to fix depression, that's dealing with chemicals and stuff in your brain from what we know
about depression. Yes.
About depression and medicine. If you're doing this stimulating neurons, what if somebody stimulates the wrong one and it stimulates something like anger?
Absolutely.
Or rage or something like that. So, I mean, there's a lot, I think, to still learn about it for sure. And a lot of testing that still needs to be done. And does the same thing happen to my brain when you poke one area that happens to yours?
Absolutely. There definitely has to be, in this case, scientific research with the scientific method.
I mean, what if this unlocked like superpowers? I mean, we already talked about genetic testing and things that people that are predisposed to being able to see better, run faster, do all this stuff. Does this heighten those things? And he actually talked about that, being able to have more than perfect vision and to have kind of like these super
powers,
for
lack of a better word.
Yeah, exactly.
I think at the end of the day that we need to embrace research and medical advancements, but that we also should be a little apprehensive about it too.
Don't do it to the detriment of society.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I understand that completely, which he would never do.
Of course he wouldn't. He's Elon Musk.
Right.
Nope, he's Elon. Yeah. We're on a first name basis now. With that being said, like I could go down a million more conspiracy theories.
Without a doubt.
Because trust me, I have some. But I'm just saying, definitely be ethical.
Yes.
Use your common sense and your better judgment.
For sure. So this theory is heavily criticized by many. And if Elon Musk and his team are able to bring their ideas to fruition, then it would be groundbreaking in the neuroscience field.
Absolutely.
For sure. But like Rosa was saying, with good, there is always evil lurking. So there will be such a great deal of responsibility that will have to be taken with developing this software, and not just by Elon Musk himself, but by the team that he creates to develop this product.
And continue it.
Right.
Because there has to be a checks and balances.
For sure. Yeah. And the one thing about medicine is it does create, you do have to have that checks and balances with, you know, the FDA and research and all those things to be safe and effective. But his other thought process is to integrate it with AI so that it's not only for medicine. Absolutely.
It can be used for other things. And, you know, right now, I think I read that he is moved to the second phase of this, where they're being implanted in pigs.
Yes.
So I'm excited to see where that goes and how it works. Because, you know, pigs help us a lot, us humans a lot. People don't think or seem to realize that.
They don't, but
our skin is kind of similar. You know, our insulin comes from them.
Right.
You know, yes, they do make good breakfast, but they do a lot more.
Absolutely.
You know?
And some of the tissue and stuff and the way things are wired are very similar with human and pigs.
Exactly.
He actually did almost like a recruitment kind of video that I watched. The Neuralink was actually in, and it was connected to the parts in the brain of the pig that were linked to the pig's snout. And every time the pig used its snout, the Neuralink actually sent data
to the cloud now
to this screen, and it showed, and it was like making noise, and you can see like every time like they gave the pig a treat or something to eat, that it was like beeping and that it was showing that the signals were working. And I was just like, that's kind of amazing.
It is.
At that point, they weren't sending anything to no electrical, impulses through the Neuralink. It was just reading back like, hey, you're in the right area because it's working
gathering
appropriately.
information, and it's still in the research process.
And evidently, it was very important that the pigs are well taken care of.
Yes, I agree.
And so it was just kind of cute that they had like their little vets there that are like, oh, these are happy pigs. Like they need very little to be happy. And they had one that was implanted for two months, and they actually took it out, and the pig is still,
he's fine.
It wasn't any like adverse reaction, but
that's nice.
Just sit there and hang out and feed the pig.
You just do what pigs do,
Yep.
Awesome. As always, we will link our references to our website, www.thenursingpostpodcast.com. We would love for you to join the conversation and leave your comments and suggestions there too. Please be sure to subscribe to our podcast. You can listen to us on your favorite platform, and you can also follow us on social media. Thanks again for listening to The Nursing Post.